Hello, today we're going to be making sauerkraut. We need two ingredients for sauerkraut, cabbage and salt. However, I'm going to be adding a grated carrot and some fennel seeds, 2 teaspoons of fennel seeds, 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds, 2 teaspoons of juniper berries, and 1 teaspoonful of peppercorns, just to give it some zing and that authentic German flavour. Now I have already chopped up 1 kilo of cabbage. I'm going to carry on chopping up the rest of the cabbage and grating the carrot for the coleslaw sauerkraut. I've removed the outer leaves. I will wash them and we will use them later when we bottle the sauerkraut. We put this on top to prevent air from getting to the actual sauerkraut itself. So we'll just leave that to the side. I'll carry on chopping up the cabbage. I'm using the old-fashioned way with a knife and a board, but if you have a mixer, blender thingamajiggy that can chop up cabbage for you, go for it. It's quicker. But I like to do it this way so I can get more precise length and width and measurements. Just the old-fashioned way, I just prefer it. So we'll just do that and we'll be finished, I'm sure. So it's fairly fine, but not too fine. It's fine if you have a few thicker pieces and a few extra thin pieces. It just makes for more interesting sauerkraut. I'll measure it as I go because I don't want to go over 500 grams for that. I'll do a little bit more. That section in the middle, which is really hard, I tend to avoid putting that in just because it's so hard. Another 100 grams of that and that'll be fine. Bearing in mind that the carrot needs to be weighed as well. So we'll just see how much that is. Yep, that'll be fine. So the remaining cabbage I'll just use for coleslaw or roast cabbage in the oven. It's really nice. So carrot you can just grate on the thicker side of your grater as opposed to the thin side, fine side. I like having the sauerkraut in the fridge always. I have it when I have obviously anything like bratwurst or any German kind of thing, sausages. It's also really nice to have when you have fish and chips. I find I don't need so much tomato sauce when I have that, and it counteracts the sauerkraut counteracts the oiliness of the fish and the chips, so they go together really well. So that'll all go in. Now I have 150 grams of carrot and cabbage. It's a huge amount actually. It looks humongous. I don't know if you can see, the bowl is pretty full. The next step to do is to mix the salt in with that. Now I've weighed out 37 grams of salt. I'm using pink Himalaya salt. You need to make sure that you don't use iodized salt. Use natural sea salt or Himalayan salt. That'll work fine. And you just sprinkle that on. We'll give it a little mix and You need to let it rest for a good 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And once you've done that, then the next step is to pound it. What you find will happen is when you mix the salt in with the cabbage, the salt brings out the liquid from the cabbage, and you need that brine to actually ferment the sauerkraut, the cabbage, so it turns into sauerkraut. So I'll just mix this with a spoon. This one will do. And then we'll leave it for 10-15 minutes, probably 15-20 minutes, and then you need to give it a good pound. I'll mix this now, and I'll see you soon. Now I'm going to add the spices, peppercorns, the fennel seeds, cumin seeds. It's not too much. I'm going to mix this all up. You can see that it looks as if there's not as much cabbage in, and you can definitely see the brine at the bottom. So we'll mix it all made up. And once this is all mixed up, I'm going to put it in a container. When I first started making sauerkraut, I used to put cling film over the top of this bowl and weigh it down with a dinner plate with some weight on top. And that does work fine, but I've got a little bit more fancy as I've gone on. And the fanciest thing I've got is this fermenting set, glass fermenting set. I don't know if you can see. You can make sauerkraut in this. However, I do prefer to use something a little bit more basic. I find this works really well. It's this is a 5-litre food grade bucket, which has a really good seal. And I'm going to put this in the sauerkraut in here once it's mixed. I will also put a little bit of cling film and inside with a plate on top just to weigh it down. I find if I press this half down, it allows air to get out, but no insects or anything else to get in. So that's good. You don't want to seal it completely because you might have an explosion, like happened to my father when he made ginger beer. Went all over the kitchen. So, yeah. Just make sure that your container that you put it in has been thoroughly cleaned with hot water. Obviously, with something plastic, you cannot put it in the oven. So, just make sure it's really clean. The Kilner jar, you could put that in the oven. You could wash it, and then when it's warm, put it in the oven for a little while, just to make sure it's extra clean. Right, now this is all combined, so I'm going to put this in this container. Then I'm going to leave it for a good few days. I will check on it regularly to see how it's doing. I'll leave the container in my spare bedroom, which gets morning and afternoon sun, so it's really a good place for it to be. And yeah, so this is what it looks like now, and that'll go in the container for a few days, as I say, and I'll check back with you and we can fast forward and see how it goes, how the bottling works. Now there's my pepper grinder next to the bucket, which has the sauerkraut at the bottom, and I just want to show you quickly before I seal it up. I've put Glad wrap underneath this plate, and the plate fits quite snugly in there and no air will get in there. And I'll put the lid on and then semi-seal it. I don't want to seal it too shut because I do want air to be able to escape. And I'll check on it, and in a few days time it should start bubbling, which means it's fermenting. So we'll see how that goes. Hello again. It's been a while, and it's been almost a week, and I've had my sauerkraut in this big food grade bucket bubbling away, and I'm now going to take it out, bottle it. Now, first of all, I must tell you that when you bottle sauerkraut, it's not like jam where you need to wash and put the jars in the oven to sterilize. With sauerkraut, all you need to do is make sure that your bottles and jars are thoroughly washed, dried, and that they are cool, not warm. If they're warm, that will kill the bacteria, the good bacteria, the probiotics, which is what we don't want to do. So I'm first of all going to show you what this looks like, and hopefully we can see some bubbles come out. Right, this is the bucket. Now let's hopefully we can see some bubbles. It's very faint, but I can actually hear a little bit of crackling, which is actually the good probiotic bacteria doing its thing. So we'll get it out and put it in the jars now. Right, I'm just going to do one and show you how I top it. So get a clean spoon, make sure that your spoon is also cleaned and thoroughly dried and is not warm. Now, you know what, you want to squash it down as much as you can. I want to put some liquid in, some of the liquid which is all pooled at the bottom. Now I don't know if you can see that. I'm pressing down and you can see there's that liquid. That's good. We want all the sauerkraut to be submerged, not exposed to air. There are a couple of ways you can do this. One of the ways, I'm just going to take a little bit out. I think I might have too much in there. One of the ways I'm going to do this today is by putting cabbage, the large outer cabbage leaves, on top so that no air gets to the sauerkraut. It's okay if the air gets to the cabbage leaf, because when you open it you discard that. However, I recently bought this wonderful weight, which I'm going to put in here. I'm going to take a bit more cabbage out. I'm going to try it just on one for a number of reasons. I want to try it first, but don't want to risk my whole batch of sauerkraut going off. So I'll try it with one. The other reason why I'm going to do it with one is because this is the only jar that this fits. Right, perfect. Now, don't know if you can see that, but there's some juice coming out, which I'm going to just get rid of that's on top. Perfect. That is absolutely perfect. With this, I don't need to put any cabbage leaves, because that weight, even though it's taking up a lot of room, is totally submerging that sauerkraut. That'll be fine. The next one I'm going to do, I will use the cabbage leaves. Now when you put this, I normally store this in the fridge, but you can store it in a cellar or wherever you have a cold room. If you have a cellar or a garage that is really cold, especially if you're in a country where like New Zealand in the South Island, it's really cold. They get a lot of snow, so in the garage would be fine, or the cellar. Now, right, there we go. You can see there's a little bit of liquid in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of the cabbage leaves and put it in so that it blocks the sauerkraut from any air. And now you can see there's a pool of liquid there. That's working well. I like to make sure, take no chances, so I put quite a bit of cabbage leaf in. tuck it under the rim. Yep, that's good. There you can see there's a good pool of water, and there's a good space between the cabbage leaf and the sauerkraut, and there's no water that will get in to expose that sauerkraut. So there we have it. Right, I'll do the rest in a minute. The other thing I want to just mention is that I use one of these trays, which is a thoroughly cleaned drainage thing that the butchers use, or whatever. You can use a plate, whatever kind of plate you have, or container. I like to put this in the fridge on this because it's a live bacteria, probiotic bacteria, which is good for your stomach, good for your health, good for your gut, good for your heart, and all the rest of it. But it can leak out, and that's a good thing. It means that the sauerkraut is live and good for you. That's the good part. So this will go in the fridge with the rest of them, which I'll bottle now, and you can start eating it pretty much now, but that should last you a good few months, at least 5 months, 6 months. So yeah, enjoy and follow for more. Subscribe for more. Thank you.